Well, while we're getting situated on getting everything logged in, did want to just kick it off and say thank you for joining the Economic Development Authority Business Roundtable today. Just a quick announcement, just in case you haven't seen it, there is a Shop Local campaign that is actively going on right now. They were at the Edge last week, and they're actually going to be in the city of Williamsburg right in front of Carousel tomorrow from 12 to 2. It is a great way to support local businesses. Your value of gift card will be doubled. So if you purchase the $50 gift card, you'd have $100 to be able to shop local. And they're rotating through the 3 areas, so York County, James City County, and City of Williamsburg. So a great way this holiday season to help support our businesses locally. And I think there is a phone number dialed in. So hopefully, Bob, are you able to dial in? The phone number went away. Well, I'll go ahead and do the bio, so that way when he does get on, we'll be able to kick it off. But Bob Merkl was commissioned in the infantry in 1975 from West Point and spent over 23 years on active duty, retiring from the military in 1998. Since then, he has held a variety of senior management positions in insurance, wealth management, information technology, and federal contracting industries. And he served 3 most recent U.S. Army training and doctrine commanding generals as a strategist and speechwriter. And he currently serves as a special assistant to the president for Military and Veteran Affairs at William & Mary. In addition to a BS in engineering from West Point, Bob earned an MBA with honors from the University of Chicago, a master's degree in military arts and sciences with the highest honors from the Command and General Staff College, and a master's degree in strategic studies and national security from the National War College. So we are very excited and honored to have Bob here today. And I apologize, we're just having some technical difficulties, so hopefully we'll be able to get started momentarily. Did anyone hear that? Because I got a chat that you can't hear me.
I can hear you, Adria. There's another number on the line right now. It ends in 1693. I'm going to allow them to talk right now. Bob, if that's you, can you speak?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Adria, can
Great. Sorry for all of the confusion, everyone.
Oh, no, not at all. I'm gonna, all right, so. We already did your intro, Bob, so we'll be ready for you. So I'm gonna pull up your slide presentation on my end.
Okay. So good afternoon, everybody. I'm happy to have this opportunity to let you know what we're doing here at William & Mary to help our veterans and their families. And you heard a little bit about my background, but let me give you a little bit more context to the job that I have here. We had a very generous and visionary alumna of the college who has gifted us $10 million to set up the Veteran Executive Transition Program here at William & Mary. And I was hired to get that program going and to be the special assistant to the president here, not only for that executive transition program, but for all veteran and military affairs at William & Mary. My background is I grew up as an Army brat. My dad was a 30-year career combat engineer who got commissioned right before the start of World War II. He retired the same year that I started West Point. And so by the time I went through my own retirement in the late 90s, the only culture I had ever known was the military. I had never lived anywhere more than 3 years, and I had never known anything but life in the Army. So although I had had a lot of wonderful opportunities and got some great credentials, I really was woefully unprepared for my own transition. I really didn't know what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, and I didn't even know how to go about figuring that out. I got very lucky, and I ended up interviewing with a gentleman from Electronic Data Systems who saw something in me. I didn't have the technical expertise for the job, but he created an internship for me, a rotating internship, and he taught me the ropes. He was my mentor, my coach, my advisor. He gave me the opportunity to learn and grow, and he really set me on the path to success. And when I reflect back on the 23-year career that I had outside the military, I really owe it to that very lucky happenstance that I had the opportunities in the second half of my life that I had. I also look back on my grad school experience. The Army sent me to the University of Chicago to get my MBA in the early 80s prior to going back to teach economics at West Point. And back in those days, not only was the campus environment not military friendly, it was actively hostile to the military. During those 2 years, I never wore my uniform. I never told my instructors or my fellow students that I was even in the military. So when I heard of this opportunity at William and Mary to set up a program that would not only help the transition of military into the very rigorous academic environment here, but would also help them transition from academics into a career of service in the second half of their lives, I jumped at the opportunity to fill this spot. And I've been here for about a year now. And it's just been a wonderful, wonderful experience for me. So with that as the context and the background, let me briefly explain what we're trying to accomplish here, and then I'll answer any questions you might have, and we can talk about how we can interface with the local communities and the businesses here to help our veterans get to where they need to go. So if you could put up the second slide, please. I'm a very visual person, so I always try to reduce everything into one cartoon if I can. And this circular flow cartoon kind of is my elevator pitch of what we're trying to accomplish. There's 4 major objectives here at William and Mary with the overall program. The first is bullet number 1 in yellow there, and that's to optimize the veteran experience at William and Mary. Now, when we first put this together and I was coming into the college, I thought that I would have to create a lot of things from whole cloth that didn't exist. But much to my surprise and gratitude, I found out that William and Mary really has what I call an abundance of riches. Across the university, there's a variety of organizations that have grown up over time that service different veteran populations in different ways. So we've got the Puller Clinic at the William and Mary Law School that does a lot of pro bono work for veterans trying to negotiate the bureaucracy of the Veterans Administration. We have a wonderful whole of government center of excellence that does a lot of interagency work with the federal government. We just stood up a Center for Military Transition at the Mason School and hired a fellow by the name of J.D. Dew out of the Tillman Foundation in Chicago to run that organization. We've got about 240 veteran graduate students in the 5 different types of MBA programs. We have an Office of Student Engagement that was fully funded by the DuPont Foundation that has an ex-Marine that runs that and interfaces with our undergraduate students. We have a whole host of alumni associations like the Society of 1918, which is our women's veterans group, and the Association of 1775. And so there's, add to that the ROTC program, which combined with our cadets at CNU has about 120 in it. We had a whole host of organizations already operational at William and Mary. And so when we say optimize the veteran experience, it wasn't creating things new. It was bringing these organizations together, giving them common situational awareness of what each other does, and bringing them together so that they can collaborate and do what they do more effectively and efficiently and creatively. So that was goal number 1. Number 2 is we wanted to differentiate our programs here with our veterans by building in a very deliberate component of holistic wellness. And what I mean by that is veterans are really good at telling you what they are, but they're not good at telling you who they are. If you ask most veterans going through transition, they'll tell you, I'm a lieutenant colonel, I'm an infantry officer, I was a battalion commander, I served in combat. Those are all credentials, but they don't tell you anything about the person. Where is your passion? What are your strengths? What do you want to do with the rest of your life? How do you match that up with an organization or a company that's going to allow you to fulfill that passion? What is in your DNA that you're bringing from the military that we can help you bring to a civilian career on the outside? It's those dimensions of wellness that we want to bring out along with the professional toolkit. So we want to give them not just the professional toolkit for the transition, but the personal toolkit as well. Job number 3 is growing a network of networks. And that's why, you know, when I met Yuri a couple months ago, I'll talk with anyone, anytime about what we're doing here at William and Mary. And at the end of the day, I tell them, now you know who I am and what we're doing here. Now I know who you are and how you can help. So open your networks to me, and I'll open my networks to you, not so that I can help myself, but so that we can both help veterans. And I've been really gratified in the year that I've been here. When I first started, people would call me up and say, hey, Bob, I heard about you and your new role. I'm, you know, Navy Corpsman so-and-so. I retired back in whenever. Here's my problem. Can you help me? A year ago, 9 times out of 10, I couldn't help them. Now, 9 times out of 10, if I can't help them, I know someone who can, or I know someone who can plug me into their network who knows someone who can help them. So that's job number 3. And then the 4th is we really want to establish this as a lifelong engagement with the cohorts going through. And when we put people on the path to success, we understand they're not going to be at the C-suite of the Fortune 500 companies within the next year or 2, but a significant portion of them are going to be very successful at very high levels 5 and 10 years down the road. We're going to keep in touch with these folks. We're going to ask them to pay it forward by giving it back, by being the sponsors, the internship providers, the mentors, the coaches, and the financial supporters of the cohorts that are going behind them. So in a nutshell, that's kind of the extended elevator pitch of the 4 components of the program. And I'll very quickly finish up by going through a series of slides that get to the strategic priorities, how all of the individual things that we're doing kind of connect to 6 different major swim lanes, if you will, that outline the strategic priorities. So if I could have the next slide. So the next slide reiterates the vision and the mission of the program and our core values. But in that box in the middle right-hand section are the strategic priorities. We're trying to develop career pathways. We're trying to build certificate programs so you don't have to interface with us in a 2-year program. There'll be ways where you can interface with William and Mary in 2-week programs, maybe get a feel for what this community is like and whet your appetite to come back sometime in your career later to re-engage with us to get a degree. We're really keen on developing strategic partnerships of various varieties. We're really keen on that internal collaboration I talked about, getting these various entities out of their stovepipes, knowing what each other are doing, and working together more collaboratively to get it done. We really want to make sure that the students are integrated into the student experience here at William and Mary, and then integrated into their follow-on job and career down the line, so that this isn't just a military-only program. If you think about what I said with the cartoon, at the very highest level, what we're trying to do is get the best DNA at William and Mary we can. We're trying to provide them with the personal and professional toolkit to be successful. We're trying to link them with a network that will open doors of opportunity to them and set them on the path to success. And we're asking them to pay it forward by giving it back when they are successful. I never once said the word veteran. So anything that we're doing that will help our veterans with this program, we want to be able to leverage to the benefit of the non-veteran students as well. And if we're successful with that, that's my definition of true student integration. And then the last piece of this is we don't want it to be a series of PowerPoint slides and a slick presentation that sounds good to a round table. We want to have specific metrics of success. We want to hold ourselves accountable. We want those metrics to be both quantifiable and qualitative. And those are the 6 strategic priorities. So I'll close real quick by just giving you a kind of a teaser of some more depth in each of those lanes. So if we could go to the career pathways, please. So by a career pathway, we're talking about providing scholarships and internships, training and mentoring to the veterans while they're here at William and Mary through a variety of pathways that won't just be intellectually stimulating, but will actually lead to their licensing, their certifications, their residencies in some places, and their career placement in their follow-on careers. And we're doing that with a variety of mechanisms through the various schools here at William and Mary, through our relationships with Training and Doctrine and Air Command, and our relationships with Indo-PACOM and the U.S. Army Pacific Command. We're setting up relationships with the Health Professions Scholarship Program for people like doctors and dentists and veterinarians, so that they can leverage off of what the Department of Defense provides in terms of residencies and scholarships. We're applying, and we've won grants for projects with DoD like Project Global Officer, which takes students and immerses them in Russian and Chinese, gives them the language proficiency, sends them overseas for the cultural experience, and then recruits them into jobs that the government needs, interfacing with these peer competitors as we move into the future. We've got an ongoing program in military counseling and suicide prevention that the military is very interested in leveraging our expertise here. We're setting up certificate programs that focus on flourishing training, that wholeness, that wellness component I talked about earlier. And we're looking into taking troops to teachers, which had been defunded, and putting it on steroids and linking it to a program called HEROES, which is any role in education that veterans had in the past, not just a teacher, but let's say you were a military policeman and you want a job in security in the education industry, or if you were a senior manager in the military and you want to be a school superintendent. So it's not just the teacher's role, it's troops to teachers on steroids. So those are some of the various career pathways. The next slide is our certificate programs. We have our first major one coming up in June. It's being sponsored by the Commit Foundation. It's kind of the trifecta of these certificate programs with Stanford and Dartmouth. It's a 2-week program that not only gives them the technical toolkit that I talked about, but it has the holistic wellness component to help them find their passion and where their North Star lies. And it whets their appetite over a 2-week period. We hope for them to go back to their various organizations, spread the good word of what's happening here, and perhaps motivate other people to come back for certificate programs in the future, so we can expand our bandwidth on the number of people we touch, and not just the folks that come here to get a degree. Next slide is our strategic partnerships, and we're trying to expand those out in 4 different domains. A lot of veteran organizations out there that help veterans, and we've been networking closely with them. A lot of corporate folks out there, Bank of America, we've got a good relationship going. We're working with Dominion Energy and others. I am mentioned down in the peers over there with Stanford and Dartmouth. We're working with others. We don't want anything we build here to be William and Mary. If it works, we want to export it out to help veterans at other universities. And we really do hope that this will be the premier institution in the country, kind of a benchmark on how you set these programs up and then migrate it to other universities across the country. And then finally, every organization has its own internal donors, and we want to start working a lot harder in terms of not just relying on one or two significant donors, but getting a lot of buy-in from our vet alumni population and others that want to help us in this endeavor. Next slide, I won't really talk much about. It just kind of gives you a feel for that abundance of riches that I talked about here and how we're doing the internal collaboration. More important to me is the linkages, these little spider webs between the boxes, because the boxes exist and they're doing great work. We need to get the connectivity among them a lot straighter or a lot stronger. And over time, we're going to work to continue to do that. The next slide is the student integration piece. And I've talked about that, how from identification all the way through placement and continuing to communicate with them so that 5 years down the line, they're giving back. We have that process in place. We're actually mapping one of these out for every different subset of our population here, from the ROTC students who are 17 to 20 years old to our Major General Wright Fellows who are lieutenant colonels and colonels in their 40s that are being sponsored by TRADOC, so that we have a mapping from identification all the way through placement back in the world, that we have something where we know we're achieving our goals. And then the very last piece of this program is the metrics of success. I've articulated kind of 8 very high level, if we can say, yes, we've done this, we're successful. And then in each of these categories, we'll be putting into place quantifiable metrics against them. So for example, a metric might be, right now we have 3 Tillman Scholars at William and Mary. In 5 years, we would like to say we have 20. Or right now, 1.5% of our undergraduate population are veterans. In 5 years, we would like that percentage to be 4. Metrics of that quantifiable nature are being put in place so we have a scoreboard to track our progress. So I know I've already talked about 20 minutes. I hope I haven't gone on too long or bored anyone. That's who I am, what I'm doing, and what we're trying to accomplish here at William and Mary. And I'll go off of broadcast now and entertain any questions anyone might have.
We do have, I'm gonna, Robert, in the attendees list, I'm gonna allow you to talk right now.
And Bob, thank you for that presentation. It's definitely, I'm sorry to hear of your experience when you were at University of Chicago and trying to expand your education back then. And but we are very lucky to have you and your leadership and a holistic approach to how William and Mary develops and has programs and services for our veterans. So thank you for your leadership in that. It seems like it's a very robust program. And I just, as Joanna said, we are opening it up for questions. So if anyone would like to speak, you have the ability to ask questions now, and we can also take them from the chat.
Robert.
Yeah, Robert Ewell here. Retired Army Colonel, Special Ops side of the house. Is Robert working with any of the Joint Soft universities throughout the other than the military services, Special Operations Command, and the Joint Soft University?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. My son right now is our deputy commander at Delta Force. He's been there for 4 years now. He turned over a Sabre Squadron back in April, and now he's the deputy CO down there. We work very closely with the SOF community. I'm meeting with USASOC, as a matter of fact, tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock. I had mentioned the Whole of Government Center of Excellence. Kay Floyd runs that organization. That's one of our abundance of riches, where we do a lot of interagency. She's the one with the Center for Military Transition that put that first certificate program in place that we're rolling out in June, called Flourishing Through Life's Transitions. We're working with the Commit Foundation right now to identify the first 40 students in that program. And those students will all come from the Special Operating Forces community and the Intel community. So we are working very closely with that population. We have certain pieces of it where we have great relationships. We have others where we'd like to break in, and as you know, it's a process developing these networks. But the quick answer to your question is yes, it is one of our strategic partners.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. We have a question from the chat. Jean from Senator Warner's office said this is an awesome program. Has this brief been shared with other branches of the military outside of the Army? If so, what was the feedback?
That's an interesting question. You know, this program was put together as a proposal by a bunch of smart folks here at William and Mary before I got here. And it really was an aspirational program, like if we had the finances, what is it you would like to do? And so they put the program together, they presented it to the donor. She was gracious enough to gift us $10 million to set this thing up and fund it through the first 10 years. And so I'm just completing now the first year of execution. We found a lot of things in the aspirational document that now don't make sense, that we're doing away with, and we're repurposing a lot of her resources to a greater return on investment. So we right now are just figuring the program out ourselves in many respects. And so although we haven't really socialized it with other services other than certain MACOMs where we already had major commands, that is, where we've already had the pre-existing relationship, like at Training and Doctrine Command and Air Combat Command and U.S. Army Pacific. We still have a lot of work to do to get into a lot of the Navy major commands, a lot of the other Air Force major commands, Coast Guard, and others. I'll be completely honest with you. I think we're too Army-centric right now. We're too officer-centric, and we don't reach the veteran until too late in the transition process. So we're working to blow this program out, make it more expansive so that it touches all ranks, all services, and it reaches the active duty force while they're in the educational centers instead of when they're already transitioning. So we do have a lot of good reach out to our peer universities, Dartmouth, Stanford, University of Maryland, and others, but we have a lot more work to do to get to the other branches of the service, and we're looking to do that.
And there is another question. Oh, sorry.
If I could add one thing that really does resonate with folks when I talk about this program is the holistic wellness nature of it. And everybody really seems to agree that there's a lot of great programs out there that focus on the technical aspects of the transition, but there really aren't a lot of good programs that augment that with the personal toolkit to be successful. And that's a piece of this program that really seems to resonate.
Absolutely. So there is another question in the chat. It says, thank you for your feedback. Oh, sorry, no, another one. I've started going to there's a new one since then. So from Don Young, it says, my company is part of the V3 program in Virginia. And what can we do to assist your veterans program at William & Mary? And I know there are several businesses in our area that are part of the V3 program. It's a great program, but I think that's a great question on what V3 program businesses can do to help support you.
Yeah, thank you. Coincidentally, the gentleman that started the V3 program was a lieutenant colonel with me on active duty back in the 1990s when we were both speechwriters and action officers for the Commanding General Training and Doctrine Command when they were at Fort Monroe. So I'm really familiar with the program, and it really, I think, was a stroke of genius on the design point for setting it up. I want to work closer with V3, and I think one of the biggest things that we need to overcome in the relationship as we transition veterans is open the apertures on both sides of the table. And what I mean by that is most veterans evaluate themselves by their own military occupational specialty and the technical skills that they had in the military. And they tend to limit, as a result, the opportunities that they expose themselves to the outside world. And I think our companies and our corporations tend to do the same thing. They tend to put blinders on and say, well, I'm a health services company, so I'm going to recruit from that population of veterans that have a health services military occupational specialty. So one of my answers to your question would be to help us open the apertures of companies to realize that what they're getting is really more than somebody with a technical toolkit. They're getting a DNA. They're getting an individual that has experience in various cultures, experience with various languages, an ability to work in a group, the teamwork aspect that comes to it, the loyalty, the patriotism, the work ethic, the self-starting nature, all of those things that are hard to quantify and hard to put in a resume. That to me is a big piece of this in terms of fitting the right person with the right second career so that they don't have to go through a transition 3 or 4 times before they get it right. I think if we really dissected most veterans' transition experiences, we'll find that many of them had to go through 3 or 4 or 5 different companies before they found the right fit. And I think we can work with organizations like yours, and that's the design point of that whole program, is to educate the gaining companies so that they're looking for the right people so that we don't have to do this over and over again.
And there actually was a follow-up to the previous question around the other branches. So they said, thank you for the feedback. Is there a time frame to reach out to the other branches and a goal date?
Well, not that specific, but right now we have a good feel for what's working. The program really is gaining momentum. I'll give you for an example. We're doing a program with NATO on Friday where various undergraduate teams are meeting and they're competing against each other across the country to try to bring solutions to the Russian disinformation campaign that's going on with Ukraine and other places. Last year when we did one of these, we only had 11 teams that signed up for the competition. This year we had to cap it at 56 teams because we simply ran out of judges and mentors and the bandwidth to do the competitions. So these sort of interactions then are generating relationships with folks in NATO. Other types of interactions through the whole of government are generating interactions with the U.S. Pacific Command or with Air Combat Command. And we're starting to know the 4 stars and the senior folks that run these organizations. And that's leading to network opportunities that get us in other doors at other major commands. So it's really not as explicit as, okay, we're going to get into Air Surface Command by July 15th. I don't have a document of that degree of fidelity. But we do know the direction we want to go in. We really need to make more inroads into the Navy and the Coast Guard than we have right now. And we've set a goal for ourselves in our second year to make sure that we've got representation in the Coast Guard and the Navy to the same extent that we now have in the Army and the Air Force.
Are there any other questions for Bob?
I don't see any.
I don't see any more coming up on the chat. Sorry, Joanna.
You're good.
There is one around your contact information, if that's possible.
Yes, absolutely. So my name is Robert Merkl, and that's spelled M-E-R-K-L. and I'm here at William and Mary. My title is the Special Assistant for Military and Veterans Affairs. I can be reached at 757-221-1694. And my email address is rmerkl, so it only has one E in it. My grandfather was too stubborn to anglicize it. So that's rmerkl@wm.edu.
And I'll add that to the chat. Sorry, I thought I typed it to everybody. But thank you for sharing that. That's very helpful. Gene did also say that he has an AV connection, so hopefully the two of you could connect. That would be a great thing. So if you're in the chat, yeah, absolutely. So if you're in the chat, I did share the email and phone number in the chat, so you can copy and save it over. I believe with the recording, you cannot access the chat kind of component, so please make sure that you copy that before the meeting ends today if you would like to be able to contact Bob. And I know Joanna and I are happy to also connect you if you have any issues, if for some reason you weren't able to jot that down. But Bob, again, thank you for your time today. You're doing great things for the military, our veterans, and our community, and it's a great thing that we're able to have here locally at William & Mary. And as I said before, we really do appreciate your leadership in this program, because I think it is a phenomenal program that we're able to have in our community.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity, and I look forward to working with anyone there in your organization that wants to help us realize this vision. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and sorry, I know there's just one more chat, and I know you can't see him, so I just want to make sure I'm sharing it. But Gene, which is with Senator Warner, just posted that Senator Warner is very interested in any programs that help our veterans. So I think it would be great for the two of you to be able to connect. So we'll definitely try to facilitate that. And then just in closing, just wanted to pass it off to Joanna, or I don't believe Yuri's on, just to see if there's any EDA updates.
Yeah, just real quickly, a couple things. As some of you may know, our CDBG grant phase 3 is open right now. We've had 2 other very successful phases of this grant. It is allowable right now for rent and mortgage reimbursement up to $15,000 with a maximum of 6 months rent. And that's that includes all 3 phases for that. So the information's up on the screen, or it should be hopefully. Where to go for that information. And then also the Williamsburg Public Art Council right now has a public input survey open. The link is also on the screen for that. And that focuses on public art in Williamsburg and locations and styles and mediums, and just to get your input as to what you would like to see here in the city. And then finally, the Williamsburg Area Arts Commission, their request for FY23 funding, that's open right now, and the deadline for that is December 1st. So if you know of an arts organization that serves the local area that could use some funding, please send them that information to apply.
And as I mentioned at the beginning, the Shop Local will be at the carousel tomorrow from 12 to 2, so a great excuse to get down to Merchant Square, grab some lunch, and maybe get some gift cards for the holiday to help support local businesses and really boost our economy through the holidays. So I hope everyone makes it a great day to do business in Williamsburg, and we really appreciate your time today.
Thank you.